Yeah, so let's say I would meet my monad, and there would be then 11 other souls. Oh, no. Well, yeah. Okay, 11 other souls, 11 other bodies. And yet, at the same time, us 12, we would share a greater soul. Like the soul, the source of our soul, the greater soul that the soul of our soul. And there are many soul collectives, so that's the soul collective is the horizontal, and then the what's this? Horizontal and vertical. And the vertical is then the like the one soul that is expressed in those different bodies. Okay, I need to go get my notes. So then the feeling would become, it is like, okay, this is me. This is me, of course, with an expanded consciousness at this point when I have become aware of my monad. There are 12 souls to each monad. Now there's still a question that I haven't clarified yet, that I want to. That's a question in my mind, and that is whether whether there is a to each soul, since it's fractal. We live in a fractal existence. This fractal universe, but not just this universe. It's like one of the basic principles of existence, which is existence. There's non-existence and existence. Existence is the form, and then in the non-form, pure consciousness, and then pure consciousness coming into infinite forms, but one consciousness. So you have no thing and all things. So but all things are, at the same time as they are infinite in number, they are also one in their beingness, in their core, in their core existence of who they are, what they are. It is one consciousness. It is one light. It is one life. So that's 0 and 1. And within that one, within form, there's the principle of fractality, and there's the principle always of male-female. So there's the principle of 2 in 1, which makes 3. So within the one body, one soul, there moves, and that also is what makes movement, is male-female. Inside, outside. Ascension, descension. I don't know if that's male-female. If that's male-female. Oh gosh, because that would be the vertical. Ascension, descension is the vertical, and male-female is the horizontal movement. So that's another thing I want to become clear about. So that's good. It's good, because as I am exploring this, the questions come, because it becomes more clear, and as I become more clear, there's also clearer questions that arise, and then within time, once the question is clear, within time the answer comes. That's the beauty. You know, it's like once I realize, ooh, I have this question and this is what it is, and it's clear, then I already know I'm dialing in that desire to know this, and now it's a clear desire. It's dialing into the answer, and it'll come to me in exactly the way that I will get it, that I will be able to understand it and then be able to express it. Okay, so we have the two within us, male, female, and here's my question. We have the two within us. We have one soul, male, female principle, and now my question is, I wonder if before or as this soul, there's 12 souls to one monad soul, so there's 12 souls that share that together come as a collective and make up one entity, one soul, a greater soul entity, which is the monad. It's called the monad. Now I'm going to look at my, when it gets technical like this, I have to look at my, okay, notes. And the monad soul, the consciousness, once you are aware, once you become aware of the 11 other souls that you share an oversoul with, that is the soul of your soul, and then of course the soul of the monad soul is the avatar soul, and the soul of the avatar soul is the rishi soul, and since rishi soul is at how can that be? 13, 14, 15th dimension. No, consciousness. Okay. Yeah. Consciousness. It's at 13, 14, 15 dimensional consciousness. So it seems to be that in this system, and of course this is a system that explains it in its language onto itself. I think it comes from, I'm not sure, but I would think that these words, monad, I'm not sure about monad, but avatar and rishi, that they come from the Vedic tradition. And there are many different languages, of course, explaining this, but the beauty is that they come in the quest of searching for who we are and what life is and how this works, how it's built, the building blocks of existence and the principles of the creative principles of reality and of course consciousness, because what would reality be without consciousness? It just wouldn't be. I mean, that's something everyone can explore for themselves, and I would even say it's logical, but logic, apparently, that word doesn't fit into that context, but for me it does, because it completely makes sense. It couldn't be any other way. If there is no consciousness or / awareness, if there is no awareness, then how can there be anything? Now you could say, well, maybe you're not there, maybe your awareness is not there, but maybe somebody else is there. Okay, there's the very famous koan, I think it's called koan, which is it's spelled Koan, yeah, and it's a Japanese thing in Zen tradition where they ask a question, and that question, when you ponder on the question, it does something with your mind. It's supposed to get you beyond your boundaries, that the self-imposed boundaries of where the conditioned mind is held within a certain paradigm, and these koans are meant to get you beyond the conditioned mind into pure consciousness. And the question is, what if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, or to see it, or to witness it? how, is the tree really falling? Maybe I just didn't get it quite right, but this is how I understand it. And I thought about that for quite a bit, and what I came up with is, okay, well, maybe no person is there, but I mean, this is just my way of thinking, but how many other beings are in that forest, including the tree itself? I mean, including the tree itself already has a perception. The tree itself is consciousness. The insects have a form of perception and consciousness. All the animals. Okay, there's no insects and there's no animals, then there wouldn't be a tree, because you need all of that. It's part of one nature. It's all part of one system. So it doesn't make sense to ask it that way because it's not realistic. And it's very, I find it obvious and logical to say, if there is no perception, if there is no awareness, then how can there be anything? How can there be existence when there is no awareness to be aware of it? And even when there would be no existence, just pure awareness, how would you know? How would awareness know that there is no thing, that there is nothing? As soon as there is something, like awareness aware of itself, there is that reflection back, awareness aware of itself. There already has to be some kind, it doesn't have to be a form like I'm imagining now, just pure awareness out in space, and space is completely empty. Yeah. I've actually in my dreams had those experiences. Not very long, but I've had those experiences where it was just awareness out in empty space. And still, what am I saying? I'm saying space. Even though it's empty, I'm saying space, that's already something. When there's space, there's already time. When there is a reflection of I am, I, when there already is I, there has to be a reflection of I. And for there to be a reflection, see what I'm doing with my hand, I have to be able to take a stance away from myself and look at myself. Even though I'm still, I'm saying now in my body, because, so now, say pure consciousness, how can it look at itself? How can it know itself? How can it even be aware of nothing? That's already something. Nothing in that case is already something. So that's somewhere up in the, somewhere in the last three dimensions. Because the last three dimensions, 13, 14, and 15, they're formless. But but there's already some kind of reflection, some kind of awareness, a consciousness awareness of self is already there, of existence, of beingness is already there. So it's not maybe in a shape, it's not in some kind of it has to be some form of density, because literally a dimension is a density. So I think that's how far I want to take it. With the souls, right? Okay. So I become aware of the other 11 souls in my monad. And what happens is that, and this I never had, I don't think I've ever had this experience, so I'm just imagining it. I've had the experience many times of in my dreams of being in unity consciousness, or living from a place of, or that my state of mind was at that at that level of consciousness where I was in unity consciousness, where where like there was telepathy, for example, and there was just a knowing, a tuning into everyone, and knowing where everyone, everywhere your focus goes, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be a tree, an animal, something. There's something sentient. We're not talking about computers here. We're not talking about machines or the inanimate objects, because with the inanimate objects, what they do is, I remember as a child I would do this a lot. I would imagine that objects were animate, so I would imagine they had a life of their own, they had feelings and so forth, and how they would feel, but that was all projecting it onto them. And so if you're picking up, like a lot of psychics can do this, they touch an object and then they pick up something. The object is just like a recorder. It recorded frequencies, codes, frequencies that contain information, and then from the person that made the object, from the persons that handled the object, and that again, that's a frequency, that's a symphony, and you get to tune into that. But that doesn't mean that the object itself can self-reflect on itself. That's only sentient beings have that kind of perception. Not all sentient beings can have are at that level of consciousness where they can refer back to themselves and have a self-reflection. However, they have a perception. They have a point of perception because they have a quantum of light. All life forms is made out of light, is made out of quantum of light. Okay, do I want to go down that road? We could argue that every object is made out of some kind of an element from the elemental table, to certain degrees fragmented from different, all kinds of different elements, fragmented and brought together, and at the bottom of everything, it's made out of atoms. And then the question is, whether objects are, have consciousness. If there is such a thing as completely dead. And dead only means stagnated to a certain degree, because complete stagnation doesn't exist in form, as a the complete stillness doesn't exist in form. It only exists in, and that's actually the still point, is the 0 point. That's the only place of stillness, is in the 0 point, in the quantum. In the heart of the quantum, it's the light source. It's the light, the one light. And even maybe light already. Maybe already light is first detectable at 15. As of once it's in density, once there is a reflection, then we see it as light. And the still point itself, in this place of void. It's also called the void. Pure awareness, no form, void. That perhaps is truly nothing and still and no light. And once it enters existence, it becomes light. So the pure potential and no form and awareness, no thing, becomes something, and then it's light, and it is seen as light. And it is the only true light, because all other lights that are created, like all the lights that are created and artificially are mimicking this light. But life, the light that life has, is all the same light. So light that we see in the fish that swim in the dark parts of the ocean, the luminous fish, the luminous mushrooms, there we can already see it. And then with the special cameras, we can see that all plant life has light, and of course all life forms have light. We're just beginning to see it. And this light is just light. You can't say, oh, there's this light, and then there's that light, and then there's this light, and then there's that light. And the light in a mushroom is a different light from in an avatar, or an enlightened being with a halo, that people can see the light coming out of the crown chakra, that they painted a halo around it. Oh, that's a different light. That's different sources of light. How could there be different sources of light? Light is light. Same with water. Same with water. There's all kinds of things you can add to water, or you take it away, or water morphs. Water is fog, steam, ice, fluid, gas, noble gas. It comes in all these forms, but water is always one source. Water is always water. Some water has salt in it, other water has this and that in it, but pure water is always pure water, and it's going to be water anywhere in the universe. There's going to be water anywhere in the universe, so it's similar. But water is already much more at a denser level than light. Water itself is made out of, eventually everything is made out of light. Everything is made out of atoms, and at the center of every atom there is a portal. Nassim Haramein calls it a black hole. I think, I would just put the black, I don't know what made the exact, physics, the physics way of describing a black hole, or the determining what a black hole is. I'm doing all of this intuitively and how it makes sense, having a certain amount, having gathered a certain amount of knowledge, and how that all perfectly fits together. And then you can always go deeper and look into it like specific, but I'm interested in how it makes sense in the grand, the rough the rough draft of the whole thing coming together and making sense, no matter from which angle you look at it. So at the center of an atom there is a portal, just like our heart is an infinity portal. And I say infinity portal because every heart leads to this still point. And that and that is also what is part of gravity. It has to do with our heart, and the heart, it doesn't have to be a heart that looks like our physical heart. It's like at the center of everything. It's like that's where the quantum of light lives. That's also where our soul lives, and where we imagine like babushka dolls, or a cup within a cup. I'm just gonna get these cups. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So you have the soul. This is your soul. And then here is the monad soul. That's the greater soul. That when this gets densified, it's when it gets densified. And by the way, there's 12 of these. There's 12 of these. There's one of this. And this is my question. I don't know if I said that before. Oh, I need another one. I wonder if there's actually two. I wonder if every soul in a human being that's in a female body. Wait, does that make sense? Because souls are, they're neutral. They don't have gender. Souls don't have gender. But souls, they can take on, let's say they have lived many lives in the same gender, then they can like take on that shape and take on the masculine qualities more, being like more towards the masculine qualities. However, in the end, it's always that nature always looks for that still point. Nature always looks for the balance between, perfect balance between masculine and feminine, which is the complete inclusion of both principles within the form. And for some reason, I've always, like, I just have this question: if every soul is split into two, like in Plato, I've heard this. I didn't read it, but I've heard it a couple times that Plato said that there are that souls are always come in twos, because like a soul splits itself into two souls, and it's actually one soul, but then in two different entities and two different forms coming through two different bodies, so that so that they're not alone, and that also has to do with the male-female principle, you know, that one soul, that they always kind of balance each other out. And at some point, you know, the soul splits itself at a certain level. This would happen at a certain density, such as I heard, I don't know if it happens as of fourth density or as it comes into third density, I'm not sure, but something like that I've heard, and not just once, I've heard it many times, but still I don't know if this is true, that it's as it comes into this lower density, into this specific lower density, like let's say third density, it splits itself into two, and then they each go their ways in two different bodies, and at some point when they're ready to ascend again, they come back together. But then how do they come back together? They come back together they're in two different bodies, and somehow they come back together. And of course there then would be that wonderful possibility of them coming back together as man and woman, you know, loving each other, sharing one soul. And I just wonder if if there's a truth to that. I don't know. So let's set that aside. That was the question I had before. Now, so let's just forget about that. And so this is our soul. We're in uh, because the monad soul, the consciousness, when you become aware of your monad soul, that first happens at, because that is in as of 7, 8, and ninth dimension. 7, 8, and ninth dimension. So let's say your consciousness as a soul in form in a body, is now your consciousness is at sixth dimension. Then you will begin to become aware of your 11. Then you start to become aware of the soul of your soul, which is the monad soul. And there's 12 others. I don't have 12 of the green ones, but now we can imagine there's 12 others like this. And once the 11 others are at this state of consciousness, they can actually meet each other because they become aware of each other. Yeah, if I reckon, even if they were on different planets and different star systems, because at the level of, what is it, sixth dimension, yeah, is it sixth? Yeah, sixth dimension, there's a very good possibility that, even if you're not seeing each other physically, that you can see each other in the dream time, or astral project, or you have those abilities. So okay, so now there's 11 others, and they all share this green. They all share the monad soul. They become aware of their greater soul, the monad soul, which is also in all of these 11 others. So then, when I see one of my collective, a person in my collective, that then I still have my individuality. I will still keep my individuality, but then there is a sense that in lakesh, I think that's what that means. I'm not sure. You are another me. I think that's what that means. I'm not sure. But there is this saying, you are another me, in Native American context. You are another me. So then you have this feeling like, oh, wow, okay, I see your individuality, and also I can feel that we share the same soul. You are another me. So there's a real deep sense of connection there, or oneness there. And then it keeps going, and then the next stage would be that there are let's see, now we have, these are 12, and then they make up, the 12 of these make up, maybe I should go this way, because this actually makes more sense. So you have 12 of these, and that makes up a green one, and that makes up that monad. Now you have 12 monads, so 12 times 12, which is 144 individual souls. So you have 12 monad souls, 12 times 12, which is 144 individual souls that all share one soul. And that's the avatar. That's the avatar. The avatar soul. And then you have 12 avatar souls, which is 12 times 12 times 12, which is 1,728 individual souls, or dual souls, then it would be double of that. Well, they kind of share, they're one soul in two bodies. But then isn't that the same with these, these as well? So slash, question mark, I'm not sure. And that makes up, what was like, the orange cup was the monad, this is the avatar, right? And now you have 12 avatars, 12 avatar souls, and they make up the Rishi soul. So this is like the tree of life. The tree of life is the collective that you are connected to. And then of course there's how many rishis, and then they all will, when they're done, or when they ascend, or when they die, but they don't die. They just merge. When the rishis merge, it merges back with. Now we come to this painting, to this sketch that I made this morning, that re-emerges with pure light. So this is a sketch that came to me this morning, and it's, again, it brings up questions also. So it's like with every new clarity layer, a veil pulls back, there's another layer of clarity coming through. There's also questions coming through. So I painted, this is one sun, obviously. It kind of goes like this, yeah? It's one source of light. And a soul is born, and this is the part that I don't know, is when a soul is born, a baby soul, because there are some souls that say angels, or some souls, they say they have never been in a body. But then that just means they have never been to this density, yeah, to this third dimensional density. So that would mean that if a light, if and this happens probably somewhere within the last three dimensions, 15, 14, 13, that a part of the light decides to split off, but it's not really split off. It just decides to go into a lower density and into a greater form and have more experience itself in greater detail. Yeah, and of course this experiencing of itself is infinite, in infinite forms. So, and it's going to be unique for every quantum so every soul quantum of light that splits off, and I don't like this term splits off, but that moves away. But of course it's always connected. It's always connected to the source of light. So I'm not sure. I believe that when a soul is born, yeah, is it a baby soul that never had an experience, and it takes its first experience where? At what density? Does it start at the densest, or where does it begin to have its first incarnation? So that's an area I've actually never heard anything about, and I'm interested in that. I'm really thirsty, and I'll just take a quick sip of water, and I'll be right back.